Well, it's Monday, and we're back on track with Donald Trump doing things which are fundamentally dishonest and I think very dangerous. So, what's the latest? Well, the latest is what's going on with Israel. Donald Trump just made a statement talking about Israel's attacks on Syria, and he said, "We now control the skies." We. Well, I thought he wasn't going to get us into this war. That this was an Israeli thing that he didn't even know about, lie number one. And that we weren't going to have anything to do with it unless we were attacked, lie number two. Now he's saying we. So we're back in there. So there are two things that come. First of all, Donald Trump laid the foundation. He made the statement that we didn't know anything at all about this. We didn't approve it, and we weren't essentially going to get involved unless they attacked the United States. In which case, we'd get right in there. And by the United States, he didn't just say like continental United States. He said any of the U.S. interests.
Front door.
Uh-oh, someone's sneaking in the front door, and it's not Francois this time. All right, let me see. Oh, the wind blew it in. Ha! Likely story. Most likely it was a ghost. Damn ghosts. Anyway, I'll deal with them later. That's right. Those ghosts are not going to dispirit me. No way. That was not much of a fun. You know what? Let's just forget I even said it. So, he says we're not going to get involved, which means that if any one of Iran's, people out there that they all claim are working for Iran, like the Houthis or the whatever the hell they are, were to make some aggressive gesture toward an American ship, that would mean we could then go into the war against Iran on behalf of Israel. What he was really doing was the whole thing was a setup. We're not involved. We have nothing to do with it. We're trying to negotiate. Look at us. We're trying to negotiate with Iran. We don't have any intent to go after Iran. We're negotiating with Iran. Yeah, that's right, in good faith. So they were supposed to negotiate on Sunday. On Friday, Israel launches this attack, and all of a sudden the U.S. says, well, the talks are off. Of course the talks are off, because that was the intent all along. And I mistakenly gave credit to Trump, and I said, well, this is Netanyahu trying to sabotage the talks between Trump and Iran. The reality is Trump had no intention of going to get involved in any talks with Iran, because he doesn't want an agreement with Iran. We had an agreement with Iran when Barack Obama was president. It was a wonderful agreement, and Iran was complying with it to the letter. He didn't want that. What did he gain by that? Going back to a treaty from before he was president, which he got rid of when he was president, and then we go back to the same treaty. In the meantime, Iran has made all of these forward progress in terms of developing nuclear fissionable material, and fusionable too, I might add, because in order to have fusion, you have to have fission. All of you with the background in physics know that. So he had no intention of going forward with those talks. He was not negotiating in good faith. He and Netanyahu cooked this up, where Netanyahu could launch this attack. That would derail our conversations with Iran, and then we would support Israel in defending themselves against the counterattack, which is really a defensive action by Iran. And now we, U.S. and Israel, are controlling the skies. Why didn't he just do that in the first place? Why didn't he just say, look, Israel's our ally, and if Israel thinks they need to go to war against Iran, well, then we get in there too because we're allies. Their answer is because we're not allies. And I get so sick and tired of hearing people say, oh, Israel's our ally. Israel is not our ally. And allegiance between nations is a strategic, usually entered into by treaty like NATO, where members have to go to the defense of another member of the allegiance. So NATO is a treaty. An alliance with another country is serious business. It means another country can pull you into a war. So if Israel was our ally, we would have gone to war with Egypt. We would have gone to war with Syria. We would have possibly gone to war with Lebanon. We would have gone to war now with Iran. Because if they were our ally, we would have to go in there and help Israel in its military combat situation with Iran. So we can't do that. Congress would never do that, because in the first place, it would have put us in a war with Israel against Egypt in 1967, I think it was. To go to war with a country with which we have all kinds, particularly Trump has all kinds of strategic relationships with Saudi Arabia and with Egypt. So as I said Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Syria, and now Iran. So we would have been involved in wars with all of those people. Well, you know what our military involvement was in all of those things? None, except that we keep giving Israel billions and billions of dollars worth of combat equipment. What we do is we give them the money to then buy it from American arms manufacturers. So we give them arms from American arm manufacturers. Without us, they wouldn't have an army. I don't know what the size of the Air Force is now, but that wasn't that long ago. It was the third largest Air Force in the world, right behind the Soviet Union. So the last time I looked at it, this was when Russia was the Soviet Union. But they get that stuff from us. So we give them the hardware to carry on wars, but we've never actually become involved in those wars. Now we are because of the Iron Dome, and we were last time Iran shot missiles at Israel. We shot those missiles down. We were involved in that. It was a multinational defense of Israel, the Iron Dome. Israel has its own Iron Dome that we gave them. But we never got directly involved because they're not an ally. So by putting up this nonsense about, well, if they any one of Iran's allies or friends or nations or states that work in at their direction, or rebel groups, no matter whether they're part of a state or not, do anything untoward toward any U.S. interests, that means we then have the opening. You've been warned, Iran, to go in. Well, that didn't happen, but he didn't wait anyway. So now we're involved in this thing. We're not directly involved in terms of flying American planes over, but we're involved in terms of supporting everything that Israel is doing monetarily, in terms of weapons, strategically, information, and threatening Iran not to go outside of this conflict they have with Israel, because if you dare lay a finger directly or however indirectly on any American interest, we'll bomb the crap out of you. And of course, eventually what this is directed toward is getting the United States to either give the bunker buster bomb, say that 3 times fast, to Israel, or dropping it ourselves. That's what this is leading up to. That's what he wants. That's what he needs. He needs that bunker buster bomb because it's the only way they can get rid of the main reactor, which is producing, theoretically, at least it hasn't gotten there yet, but is theoretically capable of developing weapons-grade uranium. So without that, the program is not derailed, and they know it. And I said that in the previous podcast before all the news agencies came on and did that analysis. I knew it because of my background in physics. I know what it takes. First place, they don't have rockets that can go underground and travel along corridors at right angles. I don't think anybody's developed that yet, but Francois, my wonder dog, is working on it. So this thing is a setup, and you watch my words. We're going to be in a situation. You watch words? Only if they're written. I'm not writing this down, so you can't blackmail me with this later. And I'm erasing this. After 10 seconds, this will erase. And incidentally, I did go see that Tom Cruise movie, and it was great. It was like watching, family photos of me. Not exactly, but close enough. But no, it was a action from beginning to end, which is what I want in a movie, because if there's a lot of action, I don't have to do a lot of thinking, and I do too much thinking, as anybody who knows me will tell you. I think too damn much. Okay, I do. Might be okay if my thinking was productive. It's not, as you can tell from watching this. I just rant and rave. And I see things, they bother me. They bother me. For example, I'll get to a whole different topic altogether, but the way Trump is treating these immigrants, and I represent a bunch of them. I've done immigration law. I know a little something about immigration law. I don't talk about things unless I have some hands-on information about them. And by and large, these are wonderful people. They're hardworking. Many of them were brought over as children. This guy, this Salvadorian gang leader that they sent to Salvador to basically serve a life sentence, and if it hadn't been for the federal courts, he'd still be there for the rest of his life. This guy came over. He was brought over by his parents when he was 16 years old. He wasn't some criminal that snuck in so they could do gang warfare in this country. But you never hear anybody talk about the fact that he was a 16-year-old kid. I mean, so that's a whole different subject. I've talked about it before. I'll talk about it again because it makes me angry when I see a big guy like Trump doing horrible things to little people. My dad always said, Ed, you're going to be a lawyer, you have to represent the little people. Little people not meaning leprechauns, morons. It means people without power. And these are about the most powerless people in our country. But they come over here anyway. They break all kinds of hardships. They work their backs off. You see them out there picking. I used to watch them picking the strawberries on my way home from work. It just broke your heart. I mean, little kids out there, just out to bend over all day long, picking strawberries for pennies. And then all these manga people, we gotta get rid of those people. They're evil. We gotta get rid of them. Well, the evil people are the people who want to hurt little people who have no ability to fight back. It's one of the things I enjoy as a lawyer is I can fight back for people, and I do. So, anyway, that's what I figured out. And I'm usually pretty good. If you look at these things over time, you'll see that usually what I predict is what's going on and what's happening, and I'm predicting we're going to get involved with our bunker buster bomb. It's because I'm pretty good at figuring things out. Why am I good at figuring things out? For the same reason my dad, who was an outstanding trial lawyer, was good at figuring things out. By reading Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie, Dad's favorite and one of my favorites. Why? Because what she did in her books, and this is a slightly different subject, but you might if you pick up an Agatha Christie book and just read it. She gives you the clues all throughout. She doesn't pull a clue out of the fog to give you the answer. All the clues that she uses to conclude her heroine or hero determined who was the guilty party, they're all in the book. And if you pay attention and put those clues together, you can come up with who done it and why, which I'm always able to do, and my father was able to do it as well. We both love doing that, and I do that in the courtroom all the time. I go through depositions, I go through documents, I go through interrogatories, I go through statements and letters, and so I go through thousands and thousands of pages in every case I try. And you know what I'm able to do out of all those thousands of pages? I pull out a photograph, a picture, a mental picture of what actually happened and why. And when you spring it on the jury, what you do is you do an Agatha Christie with the jury. You lay out the facts. You tell them what happened. You string it all together. You say, now this is what these facts add up to. And then you spring it on that this is what actually happened. The defendants say, this is what happened, but this is what really happened, folks. And I'm surprising myself in my ability to do that a lot, and it really works, because you can see jurors have that aha moment. Oh, aha. It's not like a personal injury case where, a guy get hit by a car, just question how much. No, this is like, who did what with the contract negotiations? Who did what with the secret documents? Who did what with the, getting the information that's allowed them to infringe somebody's patent? These things you think, well, patent law, how dry can that be? No, patent law is really intellectually a challenge, not just because of the technology, but because of what I was talking about. There's always a story. There's a story behind trade secret cases. There's a story behind, theft of intellectual property. There's stories. They're like mysteries. I love this sort of thing, and I'm pretty good at it. And I'm also good at it when it comes to figuring out what Trump is up to, because he ain't all that subtle or clever, even though he thinks he is. He doesn't get past Sleuth O'Connor. So that's all that nonsense I have for today. But watching this thing and hearing him say, oh yeah, we control the skies. Saying, we? What's this we? You got a mouse in your pocket? Oh, you got Benjamin Netanyahu in your pocket. Well, that's even worse than having a mouse in your pocket. And I'm not going to go into reasons why, because my dog is getting really mad at me. He's a big MAGA dog, or MD as I call him. No, he's not a doctor. He tells people he's a doctor. He runs around telling people, yes, I'm an MD. Yeah, he's a MAGA dog. Yeah, think about that one for a while. Yeah, and while you're thinking about it, I'm going to go take a nap. Good night.